Marvel Rivals is the new up-and-coming Marvel hero shooter video game that will come out on December 6th. I actually managed to play the closed beta a bit and I had a pretty good time fighting amongst the Marvel heroes. But the thing that hooked me into the game was the art style. It's a blend of 2D effects, comic books, Spider-Verse, basically it's hip, it's now, it's wow. And how, well, I'm gonna try and figure it out by creating concepts of what two of the most requested characters for that game could look like in that style. And something tells me that you already know who they are. It's been over a month since the movie came out. I bet you already got sick of hearing that song over and over again. I'm kinda late with the trend, so sorry about that. Alright, so looking at the art style, there are three things that stand out to me about it. The first thing is this strong white rim light, which is almost always coming out from the right side of every character, and it also comes along with chromatic aberration. And a lot of chromatic aberration can even be spotted in game. Did you saw that? Let me rewind it back. And this is another cool thing, that it has these hidden frames that are different from the whole animation, which really reminded me of the process that the Spider-Verse artists used for their movie.
Oh boy, yeah.
The second thing that stands out to me, which also can be seen in between the frames of Spider-Verse again, are these gesture lines. So for example, you can see them here on Iron Man's arms, on his shoulders, even alongside his head. Usually the gesture drawing is the most dynamic part of the drawing process, and as you continue to refine the artwork, you will most likely lose those lines and lose that energy. But here they decided to leave the gestural lines, which is very interesting. And the third thing that I notice is that most of the shading is not blended, it's almost like cel shaded. I mean, some parts are blended more into each other than others based on the material, but most of the time it's just gradient of hard edges, as you can see here in the color of Doctor Strange's cape. And sometimes the color values are sort of blended into each other with a cross-hatching like method. And the only thing that's left now is to start drawing.
Let's give the people what they came for!
Let's f***ing go.
To be honest, I only did one design of each character because I thought it was good enough to proceed with the next step. When creating a design for a character that already exists and it's known for his looks everywhere, it's a bit tricky because you have to make it unique but also stay faithful to the source material. But even if the design is not something extreme, people can still associate it with Marvel Rivals solely based on the style. But the question is, can I pull it off, because I've played it pretty safe with the design.
Coward!
So for Wolverine, I deviated from the source material and I made him bigger than he usually is. I know you comic book fans love your short King Logan, but to me he has to look intimidating, he has to look big. Not that big, but big enough to be a Vanguard in this game, for example. And like, come on! Doctor Strange is a tank in this game. Look at those shoulders, only from meditating. And hey, could have been a lot worse. I could have messed up with the character like some companies do. And after I was done with the designs, I started by first making Deadpool's character page. I tried as closely as possible to resemble these character pages, profiles, I don't know what they are. And as you can see, I was struggling to find the right pose for a while there. Since my goal was to make it as a character profile, that meant I was restricted of drawing the pose from many crazy angles. And still I made it more dynamic than it should have been. It was mostly because I wanted his weapons and his design to be showcased as good as possible. What can I say, I'm a professional overthinker. And as I continued on with refining Deadpool, I just made slight changes to his design. That's why you should always make more designs in the concept art stage. And for those of you that are interested in what abilities Deadpool and Wolverine might have, here are very quickly and very briefly the first ideas that came up to mind. I'll start with his ultimate ability. It's a bit wild. His Q is called Maximum Effort. Deadpool rides a rocket that you control, and if it makes contact with the enemy, it explodes, leaving you with 1 HP and you become immune to all damage for 5 seconds. And you know, that can leave you room to teleport out or kill an enemy that's on low HP. But if they destroy your rocket midway by attacking it, well, you're probably toast. It's kinda similar to Junkrat's ultimate from Overwatch, just more suicidal. The shift ability is teleport. It has 2 charges, teleport to short distance in the direction of movement, that's self-explanatory. Next up is his E ability, Bon Voyage.
Bon voyage.
I think that's a good crowd control ability where he throws 3 small bombs that can stun or root enemies. Next ability is Kill Switch, which allows you to switch your guns with your swords and vice versa, and depending on your weapon of choice, your F ability changes. So in this case, you're switched to swords, and that gives you the ability on F, Slice and Dice, which is slice forward with your sword.
What a maneuver!
Attacking with both of his katanas could have been better, and I was just feeling lazy with the gun ability. Anyway, these were my quick suggestions. I don't know if they're balanced, but for that you can tell me in the comments below, and you can tell me what abilities you think could be cool for Deadpool. Wolverine was actually pretty fun to draw. I really wanted to do more dynamic for shortened pose, since foreshortening is my weakness and overlapping is my enemy. And I want us to be friends, so for that to happen I have to try and get to know her a little better. And so since now his pose was more dynamic, he didn't fit the same setting as Deadpool. So I got this idea of making him like this is a screenshot from the animation that plays when you pick him. Like imagine Wolverine is jumping into the camera, slashing towards you, or something like that. And actually I'm pretty happy how this one turned out. Out of the 4 that I did, this one's definitely my favorite. So Wolverine's abilities are heavily inspired by the Origins Wolverine game because, well, unlike the movie, the game is pretty darn good. And I'm just gonna do them from the bottom to the top just so you can get a better understanding of my ideas. So starting with his right click ability, Adamantium Deflect. It simply deflects projectiles and successful parries charge Berserker's Rage, which we'll get to in a minute. So you really have to time it to make the skill work. His E is Upward Cut, which is just a charged uppercut.
What a maneuver!
Next ability is Pounce, and I wish there was a better word for it. It's basically a ripoff of Hook's jump ability, but it fits Wolverine so well. And now as you can see, every ability's successful hit charges his ultimate ability, Berserker's Rage, where he just gets buffed. I also thought of a different variation of the ability where the player decides if he wants to spend his rage charges to buff his attack speed or movement speed or shields. You get the idea. Oh, also I forgot to mention their passives. Wolverine can climb walls, and both Wolverine and Deadpool have a obviously healing factor that heals them when they're out of combat. That's it. So the last 2 artworks I just did for funsies. Here I thought of the team-up system in Marvel Rivals where certain characters are in play, they can get additional abilities, like for example when Venom is in play and Spider-Man is in play as well, Spider-Man gets a symbiote attack, or when Groot and Rocket Raccoon are in the same team, Rocket Raccoon can jump on the back of Groot. And that's why I played with this idea and just made Deadpool jump on the back of Wolverine, just stabbing him to hold on. Because he has a healing factor, Wolverine doesn't care, and Deadpool stabbing Logan I think represents pretty well their love-hate relationship. And while riding him, Deadpool can throw fourth wall breaking quips, something like, "Suck it nerds, I did it better than Gambit." This is the worst Ryan Reynolds impression ever, I'm sorry. And for the last time lapse, I just did another fun take on Wolverine and Deadpool, but this time on the opposite teams. You could say by the end of this video that I was lazy with the background, but let me tell you something. I drew the anatomy of the back. It may not be perfect, but I tried, I persevered, I did something. And you can't have both the anatomy and a full detailed background. Otherwise the multiverse will end. And by the way, who else draws the anatomy of the back just for fun? Who even draws the back in general? That's right, no one. Everyone likes to draw their characters from the front because that's where they're the most appealing. Oh, and for those of you that say that you actually draw it, I know you. I know you just draw a few lines and call it a day. So really, the only time you draw the anatomy of the back is when you study the anatomy of the back. Or if you're a comic book artist. Those people are just crazy. But jokes aside, you should practice your fundamentals on every side. So now go and do some anatomy studies. Or environment studies. Or style studies. Whatever studies you want to do. Do it, or you'll be in the place of Deadpool. And you don't want to be in the place of Deadpool because you don't have the powers that Deadpool has. Thanks for watching.
Look at that, I just made you $1 million in ice cream sales.